Hi friends, welcome to WebChamp. In this video, I am going to discuss how to send an email from an Excel table to a recipient. And I would like to send the data of the table, meaning if there are multiple rows for a single email ID, I would like to filter that table for that email ID and send the complete table into a single email to that person. Okay, this is what my business use case, or this is what the real time use case I can say on the Power Automate email automation. Let's understood the data first. Okay, so I have a data here, right? And I would like to send a communication based on the email ID. Obviously, here you can see that I have a three email IDs. Out of that, this second row has the unique one, meaning this is not getting duplicated, but the email ID first one and third row are getting duplicated. So I would like to send the filtered table, meaning if I have to send an email to the first email ID, I would like to send this data, this both the rows to that specific person. This is what my task, and we are going to see how we can achieve. And in real time scenario, this is what the challenging thing to automate your email communication, because nobody is going to send a simple straightforward email. You should build a flow for the dynamic data, right? So here, if you come and open the URL of make.powerautomate.com, you will be redirected to the home page. Then you can start creating a flow. So now you are supposed to define what type of flow you needs to define. So automated cloud flow, instant cloud flow, and scheduled cloud flow, how to create, I discussed already in my previous videos. So you can watch them if you are starting with the Power Automate. So here, I wants to send an email whenever I wants to, whenever my data is ready. Okay, in that case, I can select the instant cloud flow. This is manually triggered as needed. Okay, the flow I selected. Button, you would like to pick this manually trigger, meaning click a button. And flow name is send a table data to each, or I can say send a filtered. Okay, let me correct this, filtered table to each recipient. Okay, to each recipient from a table, right? Or we can say instead of each, to respective recipient from a table, right? Yes, now I said create a flow. We are here. This is fine. So now what I would like to do is I would like to read the data. Obviously, until you get the data, how you will be able to send a communication, right? So how to get a data from the, let's say my file is on SharePoint or OneDrive, list rows from a table. This is what the connector name available with the online Excel business, and list rows present in a table. Okay, this is the action I selected. Here you need to give the connection parameter. So what will be the location? So it should be a OneDrive for business. Yes. Then pick the library. So there are two types of library, OneDrive and personal cache. Inside a OneDrive, you are supposed to select the file. Okay, so let me select the file from desktop, then content, then data analysis. So you need to find out file, Power Automate, and this is the data. Inside this data, I have a file. Okay, this is what the file. Now you are supposed to select from which table you would like to load the data. Right. So this is the table in your file. You may have more than one table. In that case, it will show you the list of all the tables. Sensitivity label, if you want to add. Otherwise, you can skip. This is fine. So everything is selected. Let me save the flow. This will make sure to secure my all the work done. Okay. Now rows are there. It is possible to send a communication to each row. This is very simple task. But the problem is, we will discuss the problem. So now our job is to send an communication. Okay, send an email. Okay, so let me pick send an email. Right. So here, uh, to whom we have to send an email. So obviously, let me pick the dynamic content, and if I say email, this will add for each, because for each row from this table or output of this table, we are going to send an email. This is a test email, right? And here I will send everything. I will send, okay, or filter the data. So let me say email will be the subject. This is fine. And let me say the dynamic content is like current item of for each, because you can't bring, we can get the complete output of this for each email, but this is what I don't want to do. There is no meaning, right? We can't send a complete table with all the rows to each person. So let me complete the flow, right? So this is how flow is completed. If I execute this, it will send an email. Okay, let me see. I don't have anything in my outbox. So let me trigger the flow. Let's dry run it for testing purpose to see whether our flow is successfully working or it is able to send a communication. Right. So this has sent and communication, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for each row, it has sent a email. And I want to send an email only for unique email IDs, right? So until and unless you get a list of unique email IDs, you will not be able to perform. Now the task is how to get a unique ID, right? So action, we obviously we selected a type of flow. Then our job is to get a list of unique email ID. So to get a unique list from this, so here we have a multiple columns. Here we have a multiple columns. Okay. So I will add action. I want to select a single column from it. So here, if I go and if I use the select, because the way you use the select statement in SQL to select the specific column from a table, similarly here also you are going to use the select statement or select action. Select action will ask the input. This is nothing but the output of list row present in a table, right? Then map. So you can enter email. This will be the text. Okay, so map will be, I mean, the email will be your new uh, header for the output of this select action. And here you are supposed to select. You are supposed to select a column. So here you can see items of email, right? This is what it done. Let me delete this. We sent an email, but right. So now let's run the flow and see what will be the output of select step. Every time you should do the testing so that you need not to struggle through the challenges, because what you are expecting, if you are not getting that, then it will be a problem, right? So let me select when once the test is done, you will be able to see here what is the input I sent these many things, and what will be the output. So output, you can see it is giving me the 5 email IDs, right? email IDs we got, meaning we are able to export the email IDs of list row present in a table. This is fine. But now the task is how you can get the unique email IDs. So let me say edit, and here let me try this expression. Okay, if this works, it is fine. Otherwise, I will say union of. Okay, I'm just trying to avoid the more steps. So union of, why we are using union, I will tell you later. So what union does here, you can require the collection to evaluate an object that appears of any of the collection also appears in the result. Okay, return a single array of object with the element that are either in array or object passed to this function. So what this function does is, okay, you may not be able to understand at first time when you are reading this. So this will remove the duplicates from it. But you need to pass more than one collection. Meaning what it will do. Array is a collection. Output of select statement will be a array. Right. So here we are passing array and we are combining two arrays. What union will do? Union will remove the duplicate from two arrays and returns a unique one only. The way we can use a distinct in SQL. This kind of functionality is provided by the union function. Right. So collection is, what is a collection? So here I would like to say the items of this comma. If this doesn't work here, we need to try another approach. Okay, let me try to save the flow. Every time you should save the flow. If you are doing something wrong, then this flow will give you the warning that this is not valid at this stage, or not a proper type of data it is returning. Right. The flow is running and it says, okay, the execution of template action select failed. Evaluation of query action where expression email union in, okay, this language is not going to work. Right. So you should use the only items of this. This is fine. This was a trial, right? So this will, as we know that this will give me the list of emails IDs. I would like to get the unique. So we saw how we can use the union function, but where to use the union function? Okay. To do that, if you go to the data operation, we have something called a compose. You can write any kind of expression here to return the any type of object, any type of data using the compose. Okay, construct an arbitrary object from a action input. So this is the action we will pick, and here we will write an expression to get the content. Let's say union of, and then I will say output of select, comma, okay, output, okay. Then let me say output, not output items. I would like to say this. Okay. So body of select. Now let's see the output of this compose. Why for each? Not sure. Because I am not going to use the for each here union. Okay. Earlier I made the selection of another parameter instead of output. That's why I selected output items. That's why. Otherwise, this is fine. Now test the flow once again. Run it. Okay, I will test it on a recent trigger, recent succeeded trigger, and automatically it will pick the data, everything. See here you can see the output. Input field is this. Output field is this. Right. So we are getting unique email IDs. we are getting a unique email IDs, right? So email IDs, we got it. This is fine. But now I would like to send an email to each of the email ID. So what I will do is, again, I will add send an email. Let's test. Do everything step by step. Then and then only you will be able to understood how it works. Okay. So Office 365 is the communication. Here I will say dynamic content. Okay. And let me say this dynamic content is output of compose. Okay. So you can't use this. So instead of this, you should use the output. But if you use the output, this is not going to work. Why? Because output of compose is going to return us an object or list of array, values, meaning that is an array. How we can send an email to array, right? We have to send an email to each item of the compose. So here, what we can do is we can output item. Okay, this colon this. So this is the syntax to access the specific column from the object or arrow. See, once you get the output of any step, give the question mark, use the square bracket, inside the square bracket use the quotation, single quotation, and then write the column name or the parameter name which you are looking for. So this is the email. Okay, so this is not allowing me to do a selection. Let me write. Fine. So this is how you are getting a error. So first of all, what you need to do is you need to loop. Okay, let me keep this. You need to loop through the each item of compose. Okay, so what I will do is apply to each. I will use this, and here the output of apply to compose, right? So what I did is I selected apply to each. I gave input, select and output of previous step, meaning this is the input to apply to each, right? And then I would like to send an email here, right? So now you don't need to select that. So here you can do is meaning you can take output of apply to each step. So let me pick that will come. Okay, so this is what the thing I'm going to use. So items apply to each, and this will give me the data in the form of object. But I would like to export the data. So what I will do is I will say this, and just pick the same one, but you are supposed to access the column current item question mark this is what you should do here, right? And then body we will define. So I will say we will define later, right? And let me say save. This time it should work, right? The flow is saved. Now test the email. Now how many emails it is sending? Okay, let me say with recent trigger, this is what the succeeded trigger, and let me trigger the flow. Okay, flow is running. You will be able to see now how many emails this has sent. Okay, the time is 11:12. Time is 11:12. Okay, So all these emails are sent on 11, 12, 6 emails. Okay. We will define later. We will define later. We will define later. 11, 12. Let me pick this. Not sure why the duplicate emails are coming. Yes, but for each email ID, that email is going 2 times. Let me delete everything. Okay. So let's understood the cause. So once you test the flow, you will be able to see output of compose. Input is this, and output is this. Right. Even email has ran for, okay, here you can see apply to each. Apply to each. First input, first, second, third. Here you will be able to see send an email to this Teva. Subject should be like this only. And this. Why the flow runs 2 times? This is the question. Okay. Might be, and I ran it on the uh, earlier output. Okay. So now what I will do is I will select the fresh trigger, and let's see, because it should send 3 emails only, because here we are getting the 3 email IDs. And now you can see we are getting only one email ID for one email for each email ID, right? Now what we are left with, we got a unique email ID, we are able to send an email, but our job is still remaining. We have to filter data. We have to filter a data. Let's edit the flow. All your data is sitting in this stage, right? And you want to filter a data. So how you can do? You will be able to filter the data. Okay, so by using the data operation called filter, right? Select is used to select a single column or more than one column from a specific table or object, but filter array is used to filter data, right? Filter data or filter array. So here you should use the output of the step where we have a complete table. So list of body, right? So I'm using this body or value. Now what we are going to filter? So we are going to filter the data for items of table. So pick the value from this table. So item, this you can enter or you should use. Okay. So automatically what it does is it will look for the output and it will look for the items of email column from this table, and what you want to is equal to, if this is equals to, meaning for each email ID, if the email ID is equals to what? Output of compose. All right. Output of compose, but compose is now used in for each or apply to each loop. So we have to send an email to the email ID which is being processed by this for each iteration. So same one, if you want to use, you should use the current item, right? Items, current items. So here we have only one, so I am just extracting, or I can say the export of email value. So this is the way to access a value, right? So now, one second, let me save the flow first. What we did is we used input as a complete table. We used a filter condition in where we are filtering based on the email ID and on which email ID. So the email ID which is being processed by this apply to each. Right. So this will filter. This will filter the array. Right. This will filter the array. But this will filter. Okay, fine. Now we have a filtered table here. We have a filtered table here. I would like to send the filtered table here. So let's try this. We will discuss, we will test, and then we may end up. So filtered array, body of list of filtered array. Okay, so this is what the output I am going to use here. Okay, so this is not going to return object. This is going to return an array. That's why it is showing a body. So now let me try this. Right. So we are almost there. We are almost there. Array is filtered here. And filtered array we will send to the specific user, meaning respective recipient. Test the flow. Again, we will do a testing on the fresh data. Okay, let me remove this and let's see what output we get, what data we get in the email. Right. Okay, so I am here. Let's say test, read the data from file only, run the flow. The flow is running now. Okay, this is completed. The emails are triggered. First, second, it may send one more email or it might have sent, right? Three emails are sent here. Now, just look at the data. The email ID is, you will be able to see the email ID is here, Brahma Bachude at the rate my domain, right? So this is able to filter the data, right? It is able to filter the data. Now we had only one row in the file for the Pallavi. So it is sending an only one data. Okay, so the other data sets are that is the internal or cloud-based information that is not for our purpose, right? And again, it is filtering the data for the Deva or Deva email ID, right? So this is how we are able to get the data. But my requirement is not yet completed. My requirement is not yet complete. I want this data in the table format. How I can get this? Let me delete these emails. Right here, I have received two emails. I don't want to keep anything in my inbox. Okay, fine. So now again, I'll come here. The data is in JSON format. I want that data to be in table format. So here we have a one data operation that is called create HTML table. Or you might be able to use the CSV table also. I You can use this, but we are sending a data in email, so you should use the HTML. If you are going to save the data in Excel, you can use the CSV table. This is fine. Okay, so let me say this create. So what will be the input for this is I will say a body of this and columns. Automatically I don't want to use. Okay, so let's define the columns here. So uh, let me open the Excel file because I would like to say EMP ID. Okay, employee ID. Pick the value from the dynamic content for each employee ID. Yeah, so this Okay. No, no, we are not going to do this. We should say column should be automatic so that I need not to use the for each once again. Nested loop will again create a problem for your flow, right? So I said define the column automatically because we are passing array. This object has already the headers, right? So let me save this. Let me save this. Okay, flow is saved. Now let's test. It might throw error. Don't know until we test what I will get. Right, the emails has been sent, and you can see. Okay, what I missed is I did not modify the output of this step because we created a table using the create HTML action, but here we are getting the data from filtered array. So instead of this, if I pick the dynamic content output of this, and let me say save, and now so you are able to see what will happen or by using this create HTML table. Okay, action. So action is create HTML table, and you will be able to see the impact of that action with this test. Wait, this is running. The flow is successfully ran. Now, so far, we were getting the data in this format. Now we are getting the data in this format, right? So this is a kind of table. This is fine. So what we did is we said automatic columns. That's why it is doing this. But if we can define, we can do a more customization for this, and we can avoid the adding these extra columns for our data. This is a cloud based ID for each of the object. This is what it does. So now let's keep this as it is, and what we will do is we will do a little bit formatting. I would like to add the border. This is not in border format. Okay, so how to add the border? Let's edit the flow. You will not be able to do a modification here. Okay, at this stage also, if you want me to do this, a code view is here. Okay, and the format will be HTML body, so we don't have a scope there. So if I go to the code view here, so you can see this is what the paragraph, and this is going to return a table, right? So we can add the style. You should know HTML little bit, otherwise you can pick it from the chat GPT also. So let me say style, and this is a style tag, and let me say here the table TD and TH should have the properties, right? So the properties like border is equal to 1 pixel. I will say solid and green. Right, this is what I am going to do. Let me just try to save, and if this doesn't work, in that case, I might need to uh, see the HTML code. It's long back I used that. I'm not sure whether this will work or maybe I need to do some kind of modification. But hopefully this should work. So whether this has sent an email or not, emails are triggered. This is fine. And you are able to see the borders are added, right, for each row. we are getting a data for in the table format. So we can add more customization here once you started editing this. Okay, in the HTML format, you will not be able to view this email in normal format. If you want to do that, whatever the customized code you have added, remove that and save this. You won't be able to do a custom email customization without HTML. And here you can see now this is in a normal stage. So you can write content before. Okay, so hi, and I would like to pick the name, right? So how I can get the name? So hi, dynamic content, uh, current item. Okay, current item is not going to give us name. Okay, this is again another challenge, right? So what we can do is hi, and let's skip this. But the way we uh, get the list of IDs here, we may need to use, or we can get the name, but names will again it will give me the two names, two different names. So we need to build more logic if we want to add the name here. And let's say thanks, and the email is from webcam, right? And this current item. So output, you can see how the current output current item returns in this format. This is a JSON format. That's why we are using the square bracket and after the output of body function or output function, right? So more customization can be possible using the HTML. Here you can see that I have added the space, so it automatically create. But if you write your own code, you won't be able to change it. So let me say, so you won't be able to write an email or you won't be able to edit email in the normal format, right? So this will be your default one until and unless your this customized code is here. So now last stage I can say, and yes, let's wait until it sends the email and we may have. So now at 11:30, this is the email. So I added hi, I added thanks webcam. So this is how you can add the content. So before adding HTML code, you should create your body of email so that HTML code gets generated automatically for your email content, and then the formatting you can do as you want. Right, but for that purpose, you should know HTML, CSS, and maybe a little bit JavaScript if you want to do something in advance. Okay. So this is how you will be able to send a data from a table, which is filtered based on the email ID to the respective recipient. So I hope you like the content of this video. Thank you so much for watching the video. Have a nice day. Please do not forget to subscribe. WebChamp. Happy learning.